If you walked into your grocery store 5 years ago and filled up a cart, you probably spent somewhere around $120. Today, that same cart costs you closer to $200. But here is the thing that nobody is really paying attention to right now. There are 15 specific foods sitting on shelves today at prices that feel normal, maybe even cheap, and every single one of them is about to get significantly more expensive. Some within months, some before the end of this year, and most shoppers will not notice until it is too late. I have been tracking grocery prices obsessively for the past 2 years. I check receipts. I compare unit prices. I talk to people who work in food distribution. And what I have found recently genuinely alarmed me. There is a pattern forming right now across multiple food categories, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. I am going to walk you through all 15 of these foods today. And I need you to pay close attention to number 11, because what is happening with that one is something almost nobody is talking about yet. When I found out, I went back to the store that same day. Before we get into it, if you are someone who likes to stay ahead of the curve and protect your household budget, hit that subscribe button right now. I put out content like this regularly, and the people who watch early are the ones who benefit the most. Let us get into it. Item number 1, rice. This is the one that affects almost every household in America. White rice, brown rice, jasmine, basmati, it does not matter. Rice prices have been creeping up quietly for over a year now, and the trajectory for the rest of 2026 is not good. Here is what is happening. India, the world's largest rice exporter, has been imposing and adjusting export restrictions on and off since 2023. They loosened some of those restrictions in late 2024, but global rice stocks never fully recovered. Meanwhile, weather disruptions across Southeast Asia, particularly in Vietnam and Thailand, have cut into yields for the second consecutive growing season. The USDA's own projections show global rice ending stocks declining again this year. I checked rice prices at 3 different stores near me last month. A 20-pound bag of long-grain white rice that I used to buy for $8 or $9 is now sitting at $13 to $14. At Costco, the price per pound is still reasonable, but even there I noticed it ticking up by about 15% compared to early 2025. If your family eats rice regularly, now is the time to stock up. Rice stores incredibly well. A sealed bag in a cool, dry place lasts years. Vacuum seal it or use food-grade buckets, and you are looking at a 5 to 10-year shelf life easily. Buy the biggest bag your budget allows and put it away. You will thank yourself 6 months from now. This is one of those staples where a small price increase per pound translates into a big hit to your annual grocery budget. Do not sleep on this one. Item number 2, eggs. I know what you are thinking. Eggs already got expensive, and you are right. But what most people do not realize is that we are not through the worst of it yet. The avian flu situation in the United States has been devastating to commercial flocks. In 2025 alone, tens of millions of egg-laying hens were culled. Rebuilding those flocks takes time. You cannot just snap your fingers and produce millions of laying hens overnight. It takes roughly 5 to 6 months to raise a pullet to the point where she starts producing eggs consistently, and the disease pressure has not gone away. New outbreaks have been reported in multiple states heading into 2026. I was paying about $2.50 for a dozen large eggs in early 2024. Right now at my local Walmart, the same carton is running $4 and change. At some stores, I have seen it closer to $6, and the wholesale egg market is signaling that prices could spike again heading into late summer and fall. If you have the freezer space, here is something most people do not know. You can freeze eggs. Crack them into an ice cube tray or a silicone mold, freeze them, then transfer to a freezer bag. They work perfectly fine for baking and scrambles. It is not ideal for a fried egg, but for everything else it is a legitimate strategy. Do not assume egg prices are going to come back down to where they were. The industry is under structural stress. Plan accordingly. Item number 3, canned tomatoes. This one flew completely under my radar until about 2 months ago. Canned tomatoes, diced tomatoes, tomato paste, crushed tomatoes, all of it. California produces the vast majority of processing tomatoes in the United States. And California has been dealing with a brutal combination of water restrictions, rising labor costs, and increased input costs for fertilizer and diesel. Several mid-sized tomato processors have scaled back production. The ones that remain are passing costs along. I noticed it first at Aldi. A can of diced tomatoes that used to be 69 cents went to 89 cents, then to $1.09. That is nearly a 60% increase in about 18 months. And if you look at name brands like Hunt's or Muir Glen, the increases are even steeper. I spoke to someone who works in food distribution in the Central Valley, and they told me flat out that processing tomato acreage is down again this year. Farmers are switching to more profitable crops. That means less supply going into the canning pipeline. Canned tomatoes are one of the most versatile pantry staples you can own. They go into soups, stews, pasta sauce, chili, casseroles, everything. Stock up now while the prices are still manageable. Canned goods last 2 to 5 years easily. Grab a case next time you see a sale. You are going to need them, and they are not getting cheaper. Item number 4, cooking oil. Canola oil, vegetable oil, soybean oil, even olive oil. The entire cooking oil category is under pressure, and it has been for a while now. Global vegetable oil markets have been tight since the disruptions in sunflower oil supply that started back in 2022. Those disruptions cascaded through the entire oil market. Soybean oil has been increasingly diverted toward renewable diesel production in the United States, which means less of it ends up on grocery shelves. And olive oil has been in a full-blown crisis. Mediterranean droughts in Spain and Italy have crushed olive harvests for 3 consecutive years now. A bottle of extra virgin olive oil that cost $7 or $8 in 2023 is now easily $12 to $16 depending on the brand. Even the budget options are climbing, and the generic vegetable oil that used to be a reliable $2 to $3 purchase is now pushing past $4 for a 48-ounce bottle. I started buying cooking oil in bulk about a year ago when I first noticed the trend. I keep a rotation in my pantry. If you use a lot of oil for frying or baking, consider doing the same. Look for sales at Costco or Sam's Club and grab an extra bottle or 2 every trip. Cooking oil does have a shelf life, so rotate what you store. But having a 3 to 6 month supply on hand is just smart planning right now. This is one of those categories where the price is not going back to where it was. The structural factors driving it are long-term. Item number 5, chocolate and cocoa products. If you have a sweet tooth, this one is going to hurt. Cocoa prices on the global commodity market have been absolutely staggering. We are talking about prices that hit record highs in 2024 and stayed elevated through 2025 and into 2026. The reason is simple. West Africa, primarily Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana, produces about 60% of the world's cocoa. Those regions have been hit by disease, aging tree stock, and severe weather patterns linked to El Niño. Cocoa output has dropped dramatically, and it takes 3 to 5 years for a new cocoa tree to start producing. What this means for you is that every chocolate product on the shelf is going to cost more. Chocolate chips, cocoa powder, candy bars, baking chocolate, hot cocoa mix, all of it. Hershey, Nestle, Mars, they have all announced price increases. Some have also quietly reduced package sizes, which is the old shrinkflation trick. I bought a bag of semi-sweet chocolate chips last week. It was $4.79 for a 10-ounce bag. That same bag was $2.99 less than 2 years ago, and the 10-ounce bag used to be 12 ounces. If your family goes through chocolate products regularly, especially for baking, buy ahead. Cocoa powder in a sealed container lasts a very long time. Chocolate chips can be frozen. Get what you need now because the price curve on cocoa is not flattening out anytime soon. Item number 6, bread basic, sliced bread. The kind that sits in almost every American kitchen. This one feels like it should always be cheap, and for a long time it was. But the economics of bread are shifting fast. Wheat prices have been volatile for years now. Between export disruptions, weather events in major wheat-producing regions, and rising costs for milling and transportation, the cost of producing a loaf of bread has gone up significantly. On top of that, bakeries and bread manufacturers are dealing with higher labor costs and packaging costs. A loaf of store-brand white bread that was $1.49 2 years ago is now $2.29 or $2.49 at most grocery stores. Name brands like Sara Lee or Nature's Own are pushing past $4 for a standard loaf, and specialty breads, sourdough, whole grain, anything artisan, are now routinely $5 to $7. I started paying closer attention to bread prices after I noticed my weekly grocery total kept climbing even though I was buying the same things. Bread was one of the biggest quiet movers. Here is a practical tip. If you find bread on sale, buy several loaves and freeze them. Bread freezes beautifully. Just pull a loaf out the night before you need it and let it thaw on the counter. You will not notice any difference in quality. Some families I know bake their own bread using bulk flour, and the cost per loaf drops to well under $1. It takes some effort, but the savings are real. Item number 7. Coffee. This is the one that millions of Americans interact with every single morning, and most of them have no idea what is happening behind the scenes. Coffee prices on the commodity market have surged. Arabica coffee futures hit multi-decade highs in late 2025 and have not come back down. Brazil, the world's largest coffee producer, has dealt with frost, drought, and irregular rainfall patterns that have damaged crops in key growing regions. Vietnam, the largest Robusta producer, has also seen reduced output. The big coffee brands have been absorbing some of these costs, but that absorption has limits. Folgers, Maxwell House, and even Kirkland Signature at Costco have all raised prices. A standard canister of ground coffee that was $7 or $8 is now $10 to $12. And if you drink specialty coffee or single origin beans, you are already seeing prices north of $15 a bag. I drink coffee every day. When I realized what was happening in the coffee market, I started buying an extra canister every time I shopped. I now keep a 3-month rolling supply. Coffee stores well in a cool, dark place, especially if it is sealed. Whole beans last even longer than ground. If coffee is a non-negotiable part of your daily routine, and for most of us it is, start building a small buffer now. The prices you see today are likely the lowest they will be for the foreseeable future. That is not fear-mongering. That is what the commodity data is showing. Item number 8. Peanut butter. This one is personal for me because peanut butter is a staple in my household. We go through a jar every couple of weeks, and I have watched the price climb steadily without much fanfare. Peanut crops in the American South have faced challenges from drought conditions and rising input costs. Georgia, which produces nearly half of all U.S. peanuts, has seen reduced yields. On top of that, peanut butter manufacturers are dealing with the same cost pressures hitting every food producer: higher energy costs, transportation costs, and packaging costs. A 16-ounce jar of Jif or Skippy that was $2.99 not long ago is now $3.79 to $4.29 depending on the store. The store brands have gone up too, and some brands have quietly moved from 18-ounce jars to 16-ounce jars while keeping the price the same or even raising it. Peanut butter has a long shelf life. An unopened jar easily lasts a year or more past the purchase date. If you see it on sale, especially the larger containers at Costco or Sam's Club, grab extra. It is one of the most calorie-dense, protein-rich, affordable foods you can store, and it is getting less affordable by the quarter. Item number 9. Canned tuna. Canned tuna used to be the ultimate budget protein. You could grab a can for 70 or 80 cents and make a sandwich that filled you up for practically nothing. Those days are fading. Global tuna stocks have been under pressure from overfishing and changing ocean temperatures that affect migration patterns. The cost of fuel for fishing fleets has gone up. Processing and canning costs have increased, and the companies that produce canned tuna, Starkist, Bumblebee, Chicken of the Sea, have all adjusted prices upward. A 5-ounce can of chunk light tuna that was 89 cents is now $1.29 to $1.59 at most stores. That might not sound like a huge jump, but percentage-wise it is enormous. And if you buy it regularly, it adds up fast over the course of a year. I checked the unit prices at Walmart last week and compared them to what I was paying in early 2024. The increase was over 40% on some SKUs. That is not a small adjustment. That is a fundamental repricing of a staple protein. Stock up on canned tuna when you see sales or promotions. It lasts 3 to 5 years on the shelf. Mix in some canned chicken and canned salmon too for variety. Having a shelf full of affordable protein is one of the smartest things you can do right now for your food budget. Item number 10. Frozen vegetables. Frozen vegetables have always been the smart shopper's secret weapon. They are nutritious, they last for months, and they are usually cheaper than fresh. But even this category is not immune to what is happening in the food supply chain. The cost of freezing, packaging, and transporting frozen vegetables has gone up across the board. Energy costs for flash freezing facilities are higher. Packaging materials cost more. And the diesel fuel that moves those frozen trucks across the country is not getting cheaper either. On top of that, some of the key growing regions for vegetables like broccoli, green beans, and corn have seen reduced yields. A store-brand bag of frozen mixed vegetables that was $1 used to be one of the best deals in the entire store. Now that same bag is $1.49 to $1.79. Name brands like Bird's Eye or Green Giant are pushing $2.50 to $3 for a standard bag. I still buy frozen vegetables every week because the nutrition per dollar ratio is still strong. But I have started buying larger bags and stocking up during sales. If your freezer has room, fill it. Frozen vegetables maintain their nutritional value for 8 to 12 months easily. Buy when the price is right and you insulate yourself from the increases that are coming. This is basic budget defense. Do not overlook it. Item number 11. Sugar. This is the one I told you about at the beginning. This is the one almost nobody is paying attention to yet. And when I dug into what is happening with sugar, it genuinely changed how I shop. Global sugar prices have been climbing for reasons that most American consumers are completely unaware of. Brazil, which produces more sugar than any other country on earth, has been diverting an increasing portion of its sugarcane harvest toward ethanol production. When oil prices rise, it becomes more profitable for Brazilian producers to make ethanol than sugar. That means less sugar enters the global market. On top of that, India, the world's second-largest sugar producer, has restricted exports to protect domestic supply. And weather disruptions in Thailand, another major producer, have further tightened global availability. Here in the United States, the sugar market is already one of the most protected and regulated commodity markets. We pay more for sugar than the global average because of tariffs and quotas designed to protect domestic producers. But even with those protections, domestic beet sugar and cane sugar production has not kept pace with demand. I went to 3 different grocery stores in 1 week specifically to check sugar prices. A 4-pound bag of granulated white sugar that was $2.49 18 months ago is now $3.29 to $3.79. At one store, it was $3.99. That is a 60% increase that happened almost silently. And here is what really got my attention. When I looked at the price trajectory and the supply fundamentals, there is nothing on the horizon that suggests this trend reverses. Ethanol demand is not going away. Export restrictions are not being lifted. Weather patterns are not improving. Sugar stores almost indefinitely if you keep it sealed and dry. There is virtually no reason not to have a significant supply on hand. Buy a 10-pound bag or 2. Put them in airtight containers in your pantry. Sugar does not go bad. It does not lose potency. It just sits there waiting for you to use it. And every month you wait, you will pay more for it. This is the kind of information that separates people who plan ahead from people who react too late. Do not be in the second group. Item number 12. Pasta. Dried pasta is another one of those foods that Americans think of as permanently cheap. And for decades it was. A box of spaghetti for $1 was practically a birthright. But that era is ending. Durum wheat, which is the specific type of wheat used to make quality pasta, has been in tight supply. The major durum growing regions in North America, particularly the northern plains states and Canada, have experienced weather-related production challenges. Italy, which is both a major pasta producer and a major durum wheat importer, has been competing aggressively for available supply, which drives up global prices. A 1-pound box of store-brand spaghetti that was 99 cents is now $1.29 to $1.49. Name brands like Barilla are $1.79 to $2.29. And specialty pastas, anything organic, whole wheat, or imported, are routinely $3 to $4 a box. I started buying pasta in bulk about 8 months ago. I have a shelf in my garage with about 30 pounds of various dried pasta stored in sealed containers. Dried pasta lasts 2 to 3 years easily, and even beyond that it is still perfectly safe to eat. The texture might change slightly, but the nutrition and usability remain. If you eat pasta even once a week, buying in bulk now is one of the easiest wins you can get. Watch for sales at Aldi, Walmart, or your local grocery chain and grab a case when the price is right. Future, you will appreciate it. Item number 13. Butter. Butter is one of those ingredients that touches almost everything. Baking, cooking, spreading on toast, finishing a pan sauce. It is fundamental, and it is getting expensive in a way that is hard to ignore. Dairy markets globally have been under pressure from rising feed costs, labor shortages on dairy farms, and herd reductions in key producing countries. In the United States, the total number of dairy cows has been declining as smaller operations shut down. The cows that remain are more productive per head, but overall milk production growth has slowed, and butter requires a lot of milk. It takes about 21 pounds of whole milk to produce 1 pound of butter. A 1-pound box of store-brand butter that was $3 and change is now $4.50 to $5 in many markets. Name brands like Land O'Lakes or Kerrygold are $6 to $8. During the holiday baking season last year, I saw butter hit $9 a pound at some stores. Butter freezes exceptionally well. It lasts 6 to 9 months in the freezer with no loss of quality. When you see it on sale, buy as much as your freezer can handle. I keep at least 6 pounds in my freezer at all times now. It is one of the simplest and most effective ways to lock in a lower price on a product you know you are going to use. Do not wait for the next holiday baking season to realize butter costs $8 a pound. Get ahead of it now. Item number 14. Beans and lentils. Dried beans and lentils have been the backbone of budget eating for centuries. They are cheap, they are nutritious, they store forever, and they are incredibly versatile. But even this category is seeing price pressure that should concern budget-conscious shoppers. Lentil production has been affected by weather disruptions in Canada, which is the world's largest lentil exporter. Drought conditions in Saskatchewan and other key growing provinces reduced yield significantly. Dried bean production in the United States has also faced challenges from weather and competition for agricultural acreage. Farmers are choosing to plant crops with higher profit margins, which means fewer acres dedicated to dry beans. A 1-pound bag of dried pinto beans that was $1 to $1.20 is now $1.59 to $1.89. Lentils have seen even sharper increases. A 1-pound bag of green or brown lentils that was $1.29 is now pushing $2 or more. These are still among the cheapest foods you can buy on a per-calorie and per-protein basis. But the trend line is moving in the wrong direction. And because beans and lentils store for years, there is absolutely no downside to buying extra now. I keep a large container of pinto beans, black beans, and green lentils in my pantry at all times. I bought most of them on sale over the past several months. A 25-pound bag of pinto beans from a restaurant supply store cost me about $18. That same quantity bought 1 pound at a time from a grocery store would have cost me close to $40. Think in bulk. Think long-term. These foods are your safety net, and they are getting more expensive every quarter. Item number 15. Honey. Honey is the last item on this list, and it is one that most people do not think about until they need it. But honey is quietly becoming a much more expensive product, and the reasons are deeply structural. Honeybee populations in the United States and globally have been under severe stress from colony collapse disorder, pesticide exposure, habitat loss, and parasites like the varroa mite. Commercial beekeepers have been losing 30 to 40% of their colonies annually. Rebuilding those colonies is expensive and time-consuming. Meanwhile, demand for honey has been growing as consumers look for natural sweetener alternatives. A lot of the cheap honey on store shelves is actually blended with imported honey from countries where quality standards are lower, and where there have been documented cases of adulteration with corn syrup or rice syrup. The pure domestic honey that you actually want to buy is getting harder to find and more expensive. A standard bear-shaped bottle of clover honey that was $5 is now $7 to $8. Local raw honey from farmers markets is $10 to $15 a pound or more, and the trajectory is only going up. I switched to buying honey directly from a local beekeeper about a year ago. It costs more up front, but I know exactly what I am getting. If you prefer to buy from a store, look for honey that is labeled as product of the USA and buy extra when you find a good price. Honey literally never expires. Archaeologists have found edible honey in Egyptian tombs that is thousands of years old. There is no reason not to have several jars in your pantry. This is one of those products where the supply challenges are biological and environmental. You cannot fix colony collapse with a factory. It takes time, care, and favorable conditions. And right now, the conditions are not favorable. Now let me step back and talk about the bigger picture here. Because when you look at all 15 of these foods together, a clear pattern emerges. It is not just one thing driving prices up. It is a combination of climate disruptions, supply chain realignments, policy decisions in exporting countries, rising energy and transportation costs, and a global food system that is operating with less margin than it used to. The era of reliably cheap food in America is not over, but it is changing. The foods that used to be automatic budget staples, rice, beans, bread, eggs, pasta, these are the exact categories seeing the most pressure. And the people who will be hit hardest are the ones who do not see it coming. You are not one of those people. You are watching this right now. You are paying attention. And that puts you ahead of the vast majority of shoppers who will walk into a grocery store 6 months from now, see higher prices, and wonder what happened. The smartest thing you can do right now is take this list seriously. You do not need to go out and spend $1,000 today, but every time you shop, grab 1 or 2 extra items from this list. Build your pantry gradually. Watch for sales. Buy in bulk when it makes sense. Rotate your stock so nothing goes to waste. This is not about panic. This is about being strategic. This is about making sure that when prices jump, and they will, you have already locked in today's prices on the foods your family depends on. If this information was useful to you, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. I am constantly researching what is coming next in the grocery world, the economy, and the trends that affect your wallet. The people who subscribe and watch early are the ones who benefit the most. That is just how it works. Leave a comment below and tell me which item on this list surprised you the most. I read every single comment, and your feedback helps me decide what to cover next. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being part of this community. Stay smart, stay ahead, and I will see you in the next one.